Hey guys, All in Crypto here and welcome back ladies and gentlemen for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had an amazing week so far. The weekend is nearly upon us. Today ladies and gents, we're going to be diving into Vechain. Now we've not covered Vechain since the recent correction that we saw within the cryptocurrency space. So today we're going to be diving into it and we're going to be looking at a number of different things. We're going to be bringing up a number of different points. We're going to look at the charts, we're going to look at the 4 hourly, we're going to look at the daily. Very coincidental that this fifth and final wave that I believe is potentially going to take Vechain to a price target of around about $1 to $1.50 is setting up in a very similar way to our third wave. You know, these individual cryptocurrencies from a charting point of view have characteristics. We're going to talk about that in this video. We're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to try and say what we think is next for the cryptocurrency space. Ultimately, guys, we are still in a bull run. But we're going to look at what kind of plays out or what's likely to play out, in my opinion, over the next week or so. We're also going to be looking at Vechain. We're going to be covering this article from the NASDAQ that came out 2 days ago, I think, on the 7th of September. The article reads, Vechain is still a good crypto worth buying at this low price. This is from the NASDAQ. And they go into a number of different things, but one thing that we really want to focus on are the standout features and who uses Vechain, because on this channel, I try and always include it in my Vechain videos. We talk about just the amount, the sheer volume and the importance of the partnerships that Vechain have. Vechain is solving a real world issue, and that is a supply chain issue. There's lots of bottlenecks with it. There's lots of kind of ways that you can get around it and counterfeits. Vechain is really solving a very large issue that has a large kind of price tag or bounty attached to it. So Vechain is a project that I'm exceptionally bullish on. Also covered this in the Cardano video, and this is this is something that is very significant. Buying the dip, the third largest Bitcoin wallet just bought $23 million worth of Bitcoin. So meanwhile, retail, and I'm a part of that along with many of you, was panicking and selling. I wasn't panicking or selling, but a lot of retail were. And you have these big whales, you know, the third largest wallet or the third largest holder of Bitcoin was essentially buying this up. So there's a very telltale sign in that. So let's start, guys. Let's take a look at where Vechain is today, ladies and gents. Vechain is currently sat at 12 cents, up around about 3% on the daily, and still down around about 14.8% on the weekly, and has a market cap of $7.8 trillion. So it's sold off a little bit since we last covered it. Let's dive into the charts, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a quick look at just how much you sold off from your local high down to here, around about 38%. This is a very common trait for Vechain. We know that during this sell-off, you know, Bitcoin sold off by 55%, Cardano by 60%, Ethereum by around about that. Many other coins out there by around about 60%, and Vechain actually sold off by a whopping, I believe, 83%, if my memory serves me correctly. Around about 80%. So it's a very higher beta. It sells off significantly more than the other altcoins. Another characteristic is it tends to recover. So it tends to go on to make new all-time highs, break its previous all-time highs at a later date. And that's exactly what's taking place today. It's very uncanny and it's a very telling characteristic that you are now in this fifth and final wave, because you're doing it in a very similar fashion to your third wave. Can you see here? You finish this one wave, go into your two wave. Can you see your high, your previous high here? You don't break it. And meanwhile, other coins like Cardano, like a number of other cryptos out there, have already gone above and beyond their kind of local high. Vechain is a common characteristic that it holds. It doesn't quite go above it. And this is where you are today, guys. You've done this, you've come down, and you've even sold off in a similar fashion, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see this? I essentially think you're here and you've sold off in this kind of a fashion. If you look at what you've done today, I mean, let's very quickly overlay it just to show you how similar these things are. Can you see this? Very similar, ladies and gents. You've even had this big sell-off here. And ultimately what came after this sell-off is one thing that I really want to talk to you about, and that is continuation. So once you have this kind of sell-off, you come down before we then see continuation. You break that prior high, and that's what I'm expecting for Vechain. Ultimately, I'm a hodler. I don't try and trade these markets. I do a bit of swing trading with a very small amount of my portfolio, but in regards to something like Vechain, because I believe in the project, I hold it. And we've already discussed on this channel, those of you that follow me daily will know that I'd explained how markets work and how essentially price is dictated by a very small amount of the overall supply being traded on exchanges. So it's a very it's almost a false representation of value, if you will, and that's why you have these kind of big sell-offs. There's a lot of leverage in the crypto space, and this is what causes these big kind of wicks, and you can see just how much these wicks got eaten up. And that's really, I mean, if we look on the 4-hourly, guys, if you look at this volume here, if you look at the kind of red, and then you look at this big green wick that came up, people were really taking full advantage of this. And I am convinced that you are in this fifth and final wave of our Elliott wave theory. If we take a look at our RSI, you know, you're doing a very similar thing. You know, you kind of come up, you've come down. So within Elliott wave theory, of course, you have waves within that, and you're doing a very similar thing. You know, this was your kind of first wave where I think we are today. You come down, very much the same thing that we're currently going through. If we look at it on a weekly, it's actually more accurately represented. So these are your waves. So obviously a 1 wave, 2 wave, 3 wave, your 4th wave, which I believe we've now finished, and you are now on your 5th and final wave. And we are going to see, in my opinion, that $1 to $1.50 price tag associated with Vechain. It's only just getting started. Remember, it's not on that many exchanges. That's one reason it is a laggard, because it takes a little bit less time to kind of for the kind of retail to filter into it. So that's really where I think we are. I don't think you've got anything to worry about. I think the crypto space as a whole, let's look at Bitcoin, essentially is just going to do something like this, guys, where we're going to kind of take ground, make marginal highs, maybe lull about for around a week or so. This is actually a very common occurrence for Bitcoin. Many people get scared when this happens, which is why I brought up this article about one of the largest, the third largest wallet actually taking this as an opportunity, when many are, you know, fortune favors the bold, and this is the crypto space, and that term definitely applies. You can see that this kind of a wick here, if we look at Bitcoin's recent history, is a very, very common occurrence, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen. And that sounds very strange, and new people getting into this space, you know, do find this very, very hard to believe that this market moves in such a volatile fashion. But we've discussed how this is an emerging market, and you know, there's volatility attached with that. It's kind of like a volcano erupting. It's very violent, and then once things have kind of settled down, there's ground to be established. So this was an article from the NASDAQ, and this really just talks who uses Vechain. And it talks about, you know, some of the partnerships, DNV, PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is National Research Consultancy Center in China. So they're very, very friendly with the Chinese government. They have places like McDonald's, Walmart, BMW. There's a reason that all these big companies want to use this product, and that is because it is superior. It's very immutable. Blockchain technology offers a real service to the world, and that's why the crypto space as a whole is going to do very, very well. And within this space, you want to pick out winners and losers, and what you want to do is look for projects that have real world use cases, and Vechain ticks all of those boxes. So we're not worried from an investment point of view about Vechain at all. In fact, I'm very confident with my investment, and I actually won't be taking profits till around about the 50 cents mark, and even then it'll be very marginal. I'll be holding a lot of my Vechain indefinitely, and I won't be really starting to cash out until we get over that kind of 75 cents range. I'm that confident that we're going to get there, and haven't sold a single Vechain to date. And much the same as any other dip has been for Vechain in the crypto space as a whole. You know, it's really just a buying opportunity. I mean, look at all these kind of volatility that we have going on. These are all really just buying opportunities and largely noise. Remember that price is really only a representation of a very small amount of the overall supply being traded on exchanges. So that's an important thing to remember moving on. Understand what you're investing in, understand the fundamentals. Remember, there are big whales out there accumulating and taking advantage of your fear. And this is really where we are, guys. And you know, you've got the NASDAQ coming out and saying that Vechain is still a good buy, and this was before the crash. Nothing fundamentally has changed. I don't want to call it a crash. Pullback's more of an accurate representation. This is crypto. In any other market, it would be considered a crash. May was a crash. This is really just a pullback. And ultimately, if you look at how this kind of a structure has played out before, and we showed you coming into the 3 wave, you know, this really is just a buying opportunity. So that's really all I have for you in this video, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. I just thought we'd cover it, and I'd give you my opinion on what's to come. So ultimately, I do think you are going to somewhat loll about in a similar way to what you did here. You're going to do something like this. You know, you're going to retake this EMA eventually, come up, probably come back to retest it, and then we will see continuation. And if it plays out in a similar way to the 3-wave, you are going to see new all-time highs around the corner. So that's all I have for you guys. The main takeaway is hodl. This market is going to recover, in my opinion. Crypto is in a bull market, and the coins that have real use case, real volatility, not real volatility, real use cases and adoption are going to do very well as a result. That's all I have for you in this video, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching, guys.